When we think about services in any environment, pretty much the gist is it's a part of your application, or maybe it's your entire application. Maybe it's a piece of middleware, maybe it's a front end, like web API. In the Kubernetes realm, we see these as Kubernetes services, and these Kubernetes services, of course, need to be monitored, observed, secured. You need to at least understand what's going on within this environment. Now, in a general environment, like let's say you got a bunch of servers or a bunch of EC2 instances or whatever it is, you can build things like security and MTLS and encryption within your application stack, within the program itself, and then you can monitor and observe at the network layer. But again, in Kubernetes, it's a little bit different, and that's why we have a service mesh. Now, with a service mesh, when it first came out, it was actually sidecarless, and then they moved to sidecars. So like a service mesh has been around for a pretty long time, since 2017, but I'd say it's like really just gaining traction now. And one of the biggest reasons why is because of ambient mesh. So when you utilize ambient mesh, you're actually not installing a sidecar at all. So with a sidecar, essentially you'd have a container that was running right next to your application container within the same pod. And that was doing everything at the L4 layer and at the L7 layer of the OSI model. But with ambient mesh, it's actually split up now. So everything from an L4 perspective, like secure communication between services, and in a multi-cluster scenario, secure communication between clusters, or rather services within those clusters, separate clusters. You have something called ztunnel, and ztunnel actually runs as a daemon set on your Kubernetes cluster. So like let's say you have 3 worker nodes, for example, that means you would have 3 ztunnel pods. And doesn't matter if you have 20 application pods or 100 or 10,000 application pods, you still have only those 3 ztunnel pods, which sounds a lot better than 20 or 100 or 10,000 sidecar containers. And then for all the L7 stuff, like, HTTP routes and all that, you have waypoints, okay? So in this video, little theory history lesson on service mesh and the key differences between ambient and sidecars. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into the installation process, and we'll see what's actually running underneath the hood. All right, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a Kubernetes cluster up and running. In this case, I'm using EKS. You can use Kind or Minikube as well. You just want to make sure that you give it enough memory and CPU because Istio can be a little bit, resource intensive. And I'll do a kubectl describe on Istio so you can see those requests that are set, right? So I've already run this. If I do kubectl get nodes, we can see I have an EKS cluster up and running. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to install the Istio CRDs. And this CRD just allows us to extend the Kubernetes API to be able to use CRDs for Istio for like managing traffic and such. All right, now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to install the Kubernetes Gateway API and its CRDs. Now this isn't, necessary for Istio Ambient Mesh in itself, but if you want any ingress capabilities and you don't want to go with a specific ingress controller, you can use the Gateway API, and the Gateway API you can use to like manage traffic with like an HTTP route, and you can use it with any ingress controller. So you're not bound to a specific ingress controller's CRDs. Instead, Kubernetes Gateway API is totally agnostic. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to install Istio, and as you can see, it's using the Istio Helm chart like you always would. You're going to put it in the Istio system namespace, which you don't have to, but I would say that's like the standard. The only difference here is you're setting the profile to ambient. So with this simple flag, you have ambient mesh versus standard sidecars. All right, so if we do a kubectl get pods namespace Istio system, all right, we can see that pod is running. So let me just go ahead and do a describe on here, kubectl describe pod namespace Istio system. All right, and then if I scroll up, you see how you have your requests here. That's why you need maybe like 2 or 3 nodes if you're running Minikube or Kind, and then you kind of beef up the CPU and the memory because it can be a little bit intensive in terms of resources. So like if you just do like a Minikube start, for example, and then you go try to run Istio D, by default, you're probably not going to have enough resources. All right, now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to install the Istio CNI. Now, despite the name, you still need a standard container network interface. So like if you're using, Azure, you can use the Azure CNI. If you're using AWS, you can use the AWS CNI. Just again, despite the name, the only thing that the CNI, the Istio CNI is doing is it's intercepting traffic and then it's redirecting traffic for pods that are part of the mesh. And I'll show you what label you need to use to make it part of the mesh. It's the same thing as like when you had sidecars, you would label a namespace for the sidecars. Same thing, you're going to label a namespace for ambient mesh. So any pods that are associated to that mesh, that's what this CNI does. It intercepts that traffic and then it redirects it for the service mesh to the Istio proxy. All right, and then last but not least, we're going to install the ztunnel daemon set. And again, remember that's for all of our L4 traffic, whether it's service to service communication in an encrypted fashion or in a secure fashion within the same cluster, or if you're doing anything multi-cluster, it's service to service between clusters. All right, and while that's installing, I just want to quickly go back up to the Kubernetes Gateway API piece here. So what I said before about, you don't need the layer 7 stuff in the HTTP routes for the service mesh to work, that was accurate, but I do just want to reiterate here, east-west gateways in a multi-cluster scenario, right? So I'm talking purely multi-cluster, not just like if you have a single cluster. If you're in a multi-cluster scenario, what happens is ztunnel helps with the service-to-service communication across clusters in a secure fashion, but the way that it does it is with east-west gateways, which of course you need ingress, you need a gateway to be able to do that if you're going across clusters. But again, if you're in a single cluster environment, you wouldn't be thinking about that, okay? But if you want to do multi-cluster, you'd have east-west gateways set up. Both of those east-west gateways are set up on, let's say you have 2 clusters, you got an east-west gateway on the one cluster, you got another east-west gateway on the other cluster, and then when ztunnel traffic is going back and forth, it's utilizing that gateway. All right, and then if we run kubectl get pods namespace Istio system, we can see Istio D and ztunnel is installed. And the reason why you see 3 ztunnels there is because if I do kubectl get nodes, I have 3 nodes running. So that's how you can get ambient mesh installed from an open source perspective. And then if you want to know what the label is to enroll your pods into the ambient mesh, I'm just going to open up GitHub here real quick. I'm going to go to multi-cluster directory. I'm going to go to just one of my sample apps here, go to setup. And then as you can see right here, kubectl label namespace, whatever namespace your application stack is in that you want to enroll into the mesh, and then it's istio io/data plane mode equals ambient. Okay, so when you do that, your application pods or whatever pods are in that namespace will be enrolled into ambient mesh.